That's a great box. Yeah! Growing up, I was fortunate, got to hunt, a private family farm for, probably almost 20 years, really. One thing I noticed pretty quickly was, once you had the land figured out, there wasn't a whole lot of learning that was involved in hunting. So over the last 5 or 6 years, I typically spend a lot of my early season hunting public land, and typically by boat. We have a lot of lakes here in the Ozarks and in Arkansas. Over the last 5-6 years of hunting the public land, the number one thing that I learned about myself that I enjoyed about hunting was not necessarily, picking out a particular buck and spending a whole season on trying to kill that deer. I'm a family man. I got 2 kiddos at home, so time is of the essence. So when I go out to public land, what I enjoy is figuring a particular spot out. If I do that and end up with a successful hunt, whether it be a buck or a doe, that is like the ultimate satisfaction for me. Really, the story is about finding the spot and figuring out how the deer use it. So with that being said, let's jump back all the way to 2018 when I found this spot.
Giant buck right there. Look how wide he is. He's looking right at us, dude. He's gonna bust here in a second. Well, I would definitely call that a successful scout trip. I think my wife even enjoyed that, getting to see a couple really nice bucks. And that one big wide buck is probably gonna be the buck that I focus on probably all year long.
So 2018, I found this spot on the map, made note to myself that I need to go in here and check this out. And sure enough, when the sun started to set that evening, we started seeing bucks come out of the woodworks. There were bucks everywhere, and there were really, really good bucks coming out of everywhere. So I was very eager to get in there and hunt. The first set, obviously that fall in 2018, I didn't hunt it right. I hunted on the field edge. Pretty much haven't hunted a field edge since then. So move into 2019, and I wanted to get a little more intrusive and dive in and start hunting some of the timber. As soon as I dove into that timber, I started finding big rubs, a lot of buck sign scrapes. I thought maybe I was onto something here, and I was. Waited until 2020, went in there early season in 2020, and got further down in there into the transition that I had last hunted in 2019, and killed a buck there, I think October 1st, or early October. That was the first buck I'd killed out of that area, and I was pumped.
First loadout on the new boat, and I get to do it with sunlight still.
Going into the 2022 season, I kind of had a couple goals, and I've always had this one goal of killing a buck in September. I've had such close encounters in September, but I just haven't been able to get it done. So I really, really wanted to kill a September buck in Missouri, and particularly on public ground. The second goal was kind of a different goal. It was a little bit more of taking your time when going into a spot. I felt like I'd kind of got away from that and just really picking out a particular spot and getting there. So I kind of wanted to go back to, wandering through the woods, if you would, and finding the right spots and really focusing in on hunting the freshest sign that you can. 2022 in September, we had a cool front that brought a storm in on a particular day, and I told my wife I've got to go up there and hunt. After the storm blew in, I think it was only going to be like 65 degrees, and I've always noticed after heavy rain, deer typically are on their feet early. So that day, got the boat hooked up, headed up to the lake, and drove into my spot. And as I got to the ridge, started testing the wind, and it was definitely not what it was forecasted to be. So that's where I kind of dove into my second goal of taking things slow, and maybe I could find a different spot to hunt that would fit that wind. And that's exactly what happened. On my way in, I was only maybe 200-ish yards from the spot that I wanted to set up in, but I was on the east side of it, and I found a grove of white oaks. And that grove of white oaks had a ton of fresh acorns all over the place, and it happened to have like 4 or 5 really fresh rubs. So I decided to set up on those grove of trees, on those grove of white oaks, instead of going down into my spot and potentially blowing it out for the year.
Well, I couldn't get to my little honey hole spot, but I bet I'm probably 150-ish yards to where I was gonna set up. If it happens in here, it's gonna be kind of threading the needle through some tree limbs, and it's probably gonna happen pretty tight, pretty close quarters, I think.
As I'm sitting there, it's probably about 30 minutes before dark. I catch the movement to my southeast over my right shoulder, which was directly upwind, and it happened to be a buck. And by the time I got my head around to see what it was, he was already in bow range.
That's a great bug. Oh man, it sure felt good on the shot. It might have just been a touchback. Freaking first hunt, baby.
Put a good shot on him, and that buck, he only ran like 50, 60, maybe 70 yards up in the timber and died.
There he is right there, boys. Boy, I was getting nervous. Yeah, that exit was back. There he is. Man. Oh yeah, he's kind of like a 9/10 point. Heck yes, dude. Yes!
As the hunt was going on, my wind directions were going pretty much every way but what it was called for in the Weather Channel, but he literally just snuck up right behind me, and sure enough, he was just there, basically, and came in. I made a tight shot. He was quartering to. The exit's not great, but I'm wondering if it hit that artery in the back. But anyways, I got my hands on him. I'm pumped. This is definitely my biggest public land buck. Probably a 3-year-old 9-point. He got a little kicker, so maybe a 10, but I don't care. This is sweet. My first September buck too. I've had so many close encounters in September, and to finally get it done, especially on a buck like this, I'm pumped. Oh, look at that dude. Yeah!
To this date, that was the best public land buck I had killed yet. It's probably close to the 120 mark. Again, never claimed to be a big giant buck killer, but like I said in the beginning of the video, I was tickled pink because this is now the second buck I've killed in the same general area. And I had found this spot in 2018 and really kind of hunted it down to where I found the main transition area. And I even tried a different area on this particular hunt and it was still successful. I think the biggest takeaways and the keys to this hunt were, again, trusting my gut and trusting the sign. In southern Missouri, we have tons of white oaks, and it's pretty imperative that you hunt over a white oak because a buck or any deer in that instance is going to choose a white oak acorn, in my opinion, over a soybean. They might end up in the soybeans, but they're going to go with those white oaks first. Thank you guys for watching this video. This spot and that buck in particular are kind of near and dear to my heart because that's kind of like, you know, where I cut my teeth on public land, and this was one of the very first spots I found, and to get it done a couple times in that spot is near and dear to my heart. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video.